Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a brief presentation on my new book called the SEL Toolbox. My name is Dr. Briana Makofske. I am a licensed school psychologist and a licensed psychologist in the state of Colorado. And I wrote this book because of my experience mainly as a school psychologist. So I am going to share my screen to show some different slides to keep myself on pace, and to be able to highlight and show you a few things. What I'd like to share though is why I wrote this book. The reason I wrote this book was actually I was a first-year school psychologist, and I had a parent sit down at the table and tell me, well, hi Bree, same stuff every year. What do you got for me? She didn't say stuff. And I kind of panicked because I was ready to talk about the IEP. I was ready to talk about goals, what I did with her son. And ultimately it came down to, she said, my son loves touching girls' hair. He is obsessed with cars. And I know that if someone drove up in a Lamborghini, he is going to get in the car. What are you going to do about that? And that story, that mom, that interaction has stuck with me forever, because it really is, what are we tasked with as providers, as clinicians? What is the goal when working with our clients? And for me, it is success in my room or success with me is not good enough. And we really need to be testing if what we're doing with kids in our sessions, whether it be individual or in groups, is meaningful and generalizes out beyond our room. So I strongly encourage, if this book is interesting to you, to please read the introduction. It really outlines the why of why you're doing what you're doing with kids using this book. Yes, there are activities in the back. There are activities throughout the book, but it's really intended to spark your creativity and come up with whatever you want to test if the skills you are teaching kids, social emotional regulation skills, executive functioning regulation skills, problem solving skills, are generalizing beyond what you're doing in isolated settings. What I found when working with kids is that they are very good at, when we're working on social emotional learning, labeling their emotions, identifying and talking about triggers. They can talk about coping strategies. And then we always talk through what if scenarios, So when you're talking about like, okay, I know that I become really upset when I go to the grocery store and I don't get something I want. We can talk about what kinds of emotions do you have when that happens? What kinds of things can you do before you go to the grocery store? Who can you talk to? And our clients get very good, but they're in a regulated state in our office so that we can talk about these things. And then we make some assumptions that they're going to do that when they leave our office. And oftentimes we will debrief afterwards. So they'll come back to us either in a private setting, in a school setting, and someone will tell us, that's great that they can tell you all these things, but ultimately when a kid took his chair in class, the kid had a meltdown. Or when there was a substitute teacher, the kid left the classroom. So for me, what I really think about further is, and here's a brief visual for you. When we learn how to drive, this is the kind of road that we practice on. You start to learn all your shifting gears, for all of us who might be a little bit old school, who had manual cars, but less distractions, not a whole lot of stressors, so that you can learn the mechanics of the car and basically be successful. After you learn on this type of road, or perhaps in a parking lot, we then might up the ante and scaffold into, now you can drive to school. Maybe you get to the grocery store. Your parents might let you go pick up a friend. But what we do not do is go from that clear, simple parking lot or road onto the highway. And this is something that always sits in the back of my brain, that if what we're doing in isolated settings with our clients is that simple road, this one here, how do we know that what we're doing and the success that we experience in our private setting is transferring onto a more stressful environment? So this really gets into when our clients can demonstrate skills in controlled settings, we need to start adding stressors in our environment, because we are the professionals with all of the skills to be able to do that in a safe place. So what this book encourages, the SEL Toolbox, is to start implementing strategies that they've learned through other curriculum or specific strategies that you've taught them when they become dysregulated, and can we start inserting a little bit of stress into our sessions with our clients. So in order to add stress though, and use the activities in the book, we first have to have a trusting relationship. I am not going to insert stress into a session with a client until they know I am a safe person, I am genuine, I'm always there to be working with them, and ultimately it's to help them gain skills. Once that relationship's there, you get to start adding stress, and you as a professional know best where that will be for your client. So a very simple way that I will test out immediately is if I have a group of 4 kids, I will have 3 chairs in my office and say, we can't start until everyone is in a chair. That's a good tiny little test to see, are they ready to accept the stress? I will tell you 100% of the time I've done this, I either have a kid sit on the floor or one kid will leave. Ultimately saying, well, then I guess I can't be here because there aren't enough chairs for me. Hopefully that little story will resonate with someone. The other thing though is I always have like my chair sitting in the corner somewhere, and it really highlights whether or not kids will advocate, ask, look around the room, and immediately problem solve, because the only thing I said was everyone needs to be in a chair. That is just one way to test where their stress level will be with a very, very small stressor. Other types of challenges, and these are outlined again in the beginning portion of the book. Please read those first 9 to 11 pages. Missing materials in your room, or change a rule if you're playing a game with them, interrupting while they're talking, are all things that happen on a daily basis when they are outside of your office, particularly with kids. And so if you can mimic any type of stressor that they would be experiencing socially, this is where they can practice how would they handle it with a safe person. If you work in a school, a fun one for me to do was to change my location, especially for kids who are become very accustomed to certain routines. When you're in a slightly different office, and you of course would prep this with some other adults, how do you see them problem solve with an unexpected change? And then the whole entire book has opportunities for differentiation. Rather than it being targeted to specific age groups, it would be skill level. So less instruction would be for higher functioning clients, and lower functioning clients need a lot more instruction. But withholding some information, not telling them all the specific directions, those are the things that help you differentiate, and also know when and how to insert additional supports or additional stressors so that they can practice the skills that you've taught them. But ultimately, when you start incorporating these challenges, you are facilitating the application of those regulation strategies that you've been teaching them when they're upset, dysregulated, overwhelmed, and ultimately trying to emulate or simulate real life of what they're seeing when they're not in your office. A few of the things just to leave you with today are just a few different activities that are in the book as samples based off the philosophy part at the beginning. In the book, there's a friendship mix, and it's a very basic introduction type activity. But ultimately, you can do this with any type of food. And the things that it will generalize to: science class in a school setting, cooking at home with their families, any basic life skill. And this is a place where you can start testing them. So when we do things with food, there's pudding, trail mix, no-bake cookies, things that you can do in your setting that don't require an oven or certain utensils. But when you present them with food, you can either have missing ingredients or missing tools. For example, I'll tell the one in the book is friendship mix. And if I have 4 kids, I'll have things like pretzels, Skittles, M&Ms, and marshmallows. Funny story for me is my husband said, you can't put Skittles in trail mix. And I suggested that maybe he'd be a part of my group then, because that's exactly kind of the response where who puts Skittles in trail mix? The point of any one of the activities in this book is not to complete the activity. That is not the point. The point is what skill deficits are highlighted when I present one of these activities, with the intention being that you can do this activity multiple times. And when you come and swing back around and do the activity again, you will see where your clients have made adjustments and what skills they've started to apply based on experiential learning. So with the friendship mix, you can hand them out and there's going to be a kid that is adamant, I want marshmallows. The challenge that you can give is the marshmallows goes to a different kid. You're going to see if they will raise their hand, complain, melt down, leave, who knows? But that is where you as the practitioner can look and watch, what does this kid need? What does my client need for the next time? So you can see in real time where the disruption is, where the stress comes, and how they handle it, so that you can go back to the direct teaching and then test it one more time. Another little tidbit for when you're doing these activities as the practitioner, you do not know how to do anything, because oftentimes our clients will look to us for the answers. How am I supposed to do this? Or what am I supposed to do? Your response is always going to be like, I have no idea, but maybe. And if they need a nudge, you can give a suggestion. But you are not the person to be problem solving for them. Another activity, again, it's not a specific activity, it's more of the philosophy behind, but when you insert games, a lot of us will play age-appropriate games that are popular amongst their peers, our clients' peers. And so if you can insert a game like that, but you behave as the difficult peer, you can change a rule to a game and just change the rules frequently, just like another kid would, and see how they handle that. Then you can start inserting, well, this would be an opportunity to use the skills we've practiced. You can cheat, you can interrupt, you can forget it's your turn and be completely distracted. And the one that people really feels a hard one is to win, because a lot of our clients have a really hard time losing. But if they don't do it safely with us and work through that, then we're not really setting them up for success when they're doing it with their peers. So the generalization assumption here is that when you're doing any kind of games, that is similar to physical education class, unstructured time, lunchtime, social time with friends if they want to have play dates or any type of thing outside of that. School setting. A third one and final one is making cards. This can be holiday cards, teacher appreciation cards, Mother's Day cards, Father's Day cards. I will say, as someone who works in an educational setting, writing is a challenge that every kid has. And this is an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap in a private setting into a school setting and practice the writing. The part of the writing piece, making these cards, that's challenging for kids is really what I've observed, the draft. That a lot of clients will either change their draft completely or need their draft to be perfect. And this is a fantastic opportunity to work through pre-planning, creating something just in terms of what are you thinking, mind dumping, that kind of stuff, and then coming back to it and making a final draft. That has so many applications around like being flexible with the final draft. When and how is it appropriate to make changes? But ultimately too, if you have a draft, you have to make your final look like it, and not just change it completely off of a whim. So all of these activities really do target kids with neurodevelopmental disorders and different executive functioning challenges. And it really supports that social emotional learning, because anytime they have to utilize all of these skills together, managing their emotions and how they interact and respond to other people is a really important skill for life. And that's what we all specialize in trying to help our clients be successful with. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I know that was very quick. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. I hope that this brief presentation has been helpful and sparked some interest in the SEL Toolbox. I'm excited for you to be able to use it. I appreciate all of your interest, and I really hope it sparks some creativity when working with your clients. So thank you very much.